Hey guys, my name is Brittany from NotYourAverageFox.com, and today I'm going to share my experience of how I weaned both of my toddlers from breastfeeding. So it's been a hot minute since I've done a breastfeeding video. I think I actually only have one on this channel. I've done a few different posts over on my blog, but this is officially my second breastfeeding video. I've got my coffee in tow. Classic YouTuber move, I know, but I usually drink 2 cups a day, and I've already had one, and I thought I would just go ahead and drink this one while I made the video. I've been meaning to make this for a while. My daughter Wren is 2, she's 2.5 now, and I successfully weaned her from breastfeeding finally back in November, and I just wanted to share my story, and I thought some of you may be interested. Although I'm a strong breastfeeding advocate and a lover of all things breastfeeding, I wasn't always exactly like that. If you had asked me as a teenager when I was pregnant with my son how long I planned to breastfeed, I probably would have told you a year, because that's what the AAP recommends, and that's just kind of the magic number where everybody just seems to stop breastfeeding. I didn't really like the idea of extended breastfeeding. I wasn't completely opposed to it. I mean, people can do whatever they want to, and I didn't look down upon those that breastfed past a year old, but it wasn't exactly for me. So fast forward a little bit, and I had my son Wyatt. He had trouble latching. We ended up using a nipple shield. We had a rough start to begin with. There was a lot of pain, a lot of tears were shed, and it was just a frustrating time for us, but we did eventually push through, and I began to love breastfeeding in a way that I never thought that I would love it. So we continued to breastfeed, and all this time I'm like, my goal is to make it to 1 year. I'm going to make it to 1 year, and then I'll probably stop. So a year came and went, and guys, I wasn't ready to stop. So we didn't stop. I kept on breastfeeding him. I didn't really know when I planned to wean, but I just knew that we weren't ready. So I continued to do that for him. Sometimes weaning is a piece of cake, and I have a prime example of that with my son, which he was still on that nipple shield. I never did successfully wean him from that. Didn't really know much what I was doing and let him become dependent on that. When Wyatt was 19 months old, I became pregnant with my now daughter, Wren, and I wasn't really into the idea of tandem feeding at the time. Now I probably wouldn't care. I'd go with it, but at the time I was not interested in that. So I did plan to wean him before the baby was born, but I didn't really know exactly when that would happen. I didn't do any research on how to wean a toddler, didn't look up anything, and absolutely didn't try any method per se. So this is how it went down. It was about 2 a.m. in the morning one night. He was 21 months old, and I lost the dang nipple shield. So that's not the first time that's happened. Obviously, we've lost it several times, or I wouldn't have went out and bought it more again and again. But at 2 a.m. that night, I briefly looked for it in the bed, didn't find it, and I was like, okay, listen, this is it. I am done. No more breastfeeding, and I'm not looking for the nipple shield. So without the nipple shield, he refused to nurse. So that was that. He cried for about 10 minutes, and I sat there and I held him and I said, Mommy loves you. Mommy's got you. I'm going to hold you, and everything's going to be okay. He went back to sleep. He cried off and on throughout the night, but he didn't cry for very long periods of time, and it was pretty easy going. So by the second night, he only cried a couple times, and the third night he was done over it completely. Like, he was never even breastfed in the begin with. Like, seriously, he just forgot about it, and I was like, wow. So that was easy. That was really easy. Okay, so sometimes breastfeeding can be a piece of cake, and then other times you have my daughter Wren, and love her heart, love her to death, but my goodness has she been difficult. One of my misconceptions as a parent is thinking that however it went with the first child, it's going to go the same with the second one. And that couldn't be more far from the truth, because first of all, my children are complete opposites in general. And second of all, Wren is... Wren's my trouble child. Love her so much, but she is what I would call a classic boob monster. And that's something that Wyatt never was. He nursed almost as if he was just thirsty or hungry, and then he was done. So he got to where he didn't even nurse throughout the day. He would only do so for naps, and then when he slept at night, he woke several times to nurse. It was like his blankie or his stuffed animal. It was something he needed to go back to sleep. His sleep cue, and that's all it was. But with Wren, it was more than just food. It was something she loved to snuggle to at the end of the day. She loved to come cuddle with me on the couch. It was her comfort object whenever she got hurt. It was something she went to whenever Wyatt hurt her feelings or she was sad. And breastfeeding was more than just food to her. It was everything. And I didn't want to just take that away from her. Being more educated on the topic of breastfeeding, I realized that the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO, they recommend breastfeeding until age 2, as opposed to the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends at least one year. But I wanted to try to make it to year 2, and that was my goal. So I continued on breastfeeding Wren until she was 2. And the closer she got to that age, the more I had thought about weaning her. This sounds weird to say, and I'm probably going to get judged for this. As a breastfeeding advocate, someone who loves breastfeeding, and I'm woohoo, all for it. But guys, I started to hate it. And I really hate saying that, but it's true. There's truth in that. After 2 years of breastfeeding her, which, well, heck, it was longer than that because I only had a few months of the break between my son and my daughter. So I had been breastfeeding almost consistently for like 3 years or so. 3.5 years. Yeah. And my body was tired. I was tired of waking up throughout the night, and I was tired of my body being shared with somebody else. And don't get me wrong, I still loved the comfort from it. I loved everything about it. But you know, I expected her, she was 2, and again, comparing her to my son, I expected her to stop liking nursing as much. I never even figured I would have to wean Wren because I was like, well, all kids will eventually self-wean. I mean, they're not going to stay on the breast until college, despite what some people probably think. All will eventually self-wean, and I just kind of expected that's how it would go, you know. I didn't expect to wean past or to breastfeed past 2. So whenever Wren turned 2, and instead of backing off breastfeeding a little bit and not wanting it as much throughout the day, it was like complete opposite than that. It was almost like she was a newborn again, and she was breastfeeding constantly. So back cluster feeding days, that was all starting back over again. She cluster fed throughout the day. Anytime I sat on the couch, she wanted my breast. She wanted me all times throughout the day, and at night it just got worse. So she would wake over and over and over and over again, and it was exhausting, complete and utterly exhausting. And I decided that it was time for us to stop, and I just thought that it would be a good time. So Wren was about 26 months old, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do a gentle approach, and I want to do this with the least amount of tears as I possibly can. So gentle weaning, I started to try to do that, and I started with not offering her to nurse. So before, whenever she was cranky or so, I would have her come down and sit on the couch with me, and I would let her nurse. So now the method was that I was going to only offer the breast whenever she asked for it. Turns out my girl knows what she wants, and she asked for it constantly. So that method didn't exactly go very well. So take 2, I decided that we would slow down on nursing throughout the day. So I decided I would tell her no whenever she wanted to nurse. And guys, if you've never tried to tell a breastfeeding toddler no, you should try it sometime, especially if you love constant screaming. But for real, that's exactly how it went. Didn't go very well. I don't know why I expected it to work, but she cried and she cried and she cried, and as frustrated as I was, I didn't stick to my guns and we went right back to the way we was before. Constant breastfeeding again. Okay, so by age 28 months, I think she was, when I decided, okay, I was done. We've got to stick to a plan and I can't give up this time. So I had a meeting in Frankfurt one day for work, and I didn't want to get up really early with the kids and drop them off with my mom. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity. So the night before that happened, I decided I was going to do cold turkey. So this method worked for my son. I thought, well, it's going to work again, or at least it's going to have to. I mean, all I can do is try. So that's what I did. I tried to keep her busy throughout the day, and we avoided nursing throughout the day. And then nighttime came, and here was the rough train wreck coming again, because it was crying, it was crying, it was crying. Very frustrating experience, but I just told her, I said, Mommy loves you, I'll hold you. I offered her a drink, and I tried to just be there as much for her as I could, just as I did with my son. And she wasn't taking it very well, but I knew that this wouldn't last forever. So we made it through the first night, okay, I mean, as okay as it can be, I guess. So then night number 2, she stayed with my mom, and this is where a helper comes in. So it's good to have a support person or a helper, someone that you can pass your child off to, just so they aren't thinking about nursing 24/7. So I sent her to my mom's for the night, so she at least wouldn't be around me, wouldn't be wanting to nurse, because it wouldn't be right there in front of her. And I finally got my first good night of sleep. It was great. So I woke up the next morning, went to my meeting in Frankfurt. Mom said that Wren cried throughout the night, but she was pretty good otherwise. So day 3, Wren asked for nursing a few times, but it wasn't as bad as like it had been, so there was some progress there. Wasn't constant screaming, just a few cries here and there, and by, I'd say, a week, she was completely weaned. And it's so weird too, because she still remembers, I think she still remembers nursing, and she'll point and she'll say, "Booby, booby," but she's never once acted like she wanted to nurse after that week. It's almost like she's forgot about that too. Like she knows that that's not for her anymore. It's for babies, and it's a bittersweet moment. If you ask me how I feel about quitting, how I feel about weaning, I would tell you that it's bittersweet, and it didn't go down exactly at all how I thought it would. See, I always imagined weaning would be the super sentimental moment where, you know, I would sit and rock my child. They nursed for the last time, tears would be shed, I'd have soft music playing in the background, I would take a picture, post it on Facebook, say a few sweet words about it, and it would be a moment that I could remember for the rest of my lives. Well, that didn't happen at all. So my last few moments of breastfeeding both of my kids are about 2 a.m. in the morning. I was a sleep-deprived mom, completely disoriented, and no sweet memories are recalled from that last nursing session, but that's okay, because I have millions of other wonderful memories of my time as a breastfeeding mom. And although I probably won't get this opportunity again, can never say never, but for now I'm pretty satisfied with my 2 kids. And if I don't ever get another chance to breastfeed, that is okay with me, because I had the most perfect experience, most perfect kids, and I feel privileged to be able to experience that, because some don't get to at all. If you are a mom and you're thinking about weaning your toddler, make sure you're ready. First of all, know when the time is right, and then the next step I would say is to choose your method of choice, be that cold turkey, gentle weaning, however you choose to do it. Just pick a method. Grab you a support person, get your mom, your husband, your friend on board. Let the kids spend some time with them. Step away from your child a little bit if you can. Stick to your guns. Keep going. Don't give up, because you can do this. And lastly, celebrate and treasure those memories that you had with your child, because they're some of the best, most wonderful memories. That's all I've got for you guys today. If you're new here, please subscribe. I do a lot of motherhood, natural living, sustainability type posts. I'm a homeschooling mom of 2, so you'll see a lot of that on my channel as well. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.